Alright, we've got the new cards. Magic Misadventures, here we go. Gust Monk, a 2-mana 2/2 Bandle Yordle. When I'm summoned, create a Cloud Stance in hand, and the Cloud Stance is a main deckable spell. It's not just a token, and it's give an ally +2 attack and round and recall me this round. Okay, sure. Then we've got Tornado Warrior, another 2/2 Yordle. When I'm summoned, grant me +1/+0 and a random keyword. I keep these stat buffs and keywords when I'm recalled. That's really, really interesting. So basically, Tornado Warrior, every time you play it, it's going to get stronger. It will basically start out as a 2-mana 3/2 with a random keyword, and every time you recall it, it gets a new one. This is actually not bad. Like, it has a good baseline. The fact that it starts as a 2-mana 3/2, like random keyword. So, you know, I know random keywords better than anybody, guys. Like, it's like the Porabot, right? It's 2-mana 3/2 stat line, not quite as good, but it'll roll a lot of good early keywords like lifesteal tough kind of stuff, right? And it's if you like recall it once and play it again, like it can actually do some cute things. Like being able to combine keywords together like Arsenal is really good. Okay, so next up, the final 3 cards we have are Quicken, recall a unit with 3 or less power. Wow. Okay. That's really, really interesting. So yeah, this can recall your own units. It can recall opponents' units. For the most part, you're going to want to use this on opponents' units. It's just a 2-mana recall for 3 or less power, which is, it's kind of like a culling strike for recall, if that makes sense. It's 2 mana instead of 3, and it's a good counter to a lot of things that are scary in the meta with 3 or less power. Basically, anything that culling strike counters, I'm going to move my camera again. Anything that culling strike counters is something that this card is going to counter. So think, you know, counters to Swain, counters to what else is in the meta for like when culling strike counters? Usually like Twisted Fate, Thresh in some cases. Like when there's metas heavier on that, you could do like freeze recall stuff. Yeah, but pretty much anything with like high cost and low attack, anything culling strike is good against. Quicken is good to hit. Thunder Fist, 3-mana 2/3 impact Bandle. When I'm summoned, if you've summoned a Thunder Fist this game, transform me into Massa Crashing Thunder, which is this token. It's a 3-mana 5/4 impact. So basically, if you play the first Thunder Fist, and it's always a 3-mana 2/3, and you play a second Thunder Fist ever, it could be the same one off of a recall, or it could just be a new Thunder Fist. And the second one you play is just going to be a 3-mana 5/4 impact, which is pretty big. And then the rest of them you play, you know, if you just keep playing more Thunder Fists, they're all 3-mana 5/4 impacts, which is really kind of scary, right? Like, that's a very, very powerful card if you can play a lot more of it. I don't know if you're going to want to run this with recall synergy or something like that. I don't think there's really enough ways to get enough of these cards for it to be great. You can retreat, recall it. Yeah, retreat, return can work on it because it's 3 mana as well. But I don't expect it to be amazing without more synergy. We haven't really seen much. I'm sure you can do memes like trying to counterfeit copies this. It's sort of like some Chempunk, some snipes posse. What's the first form called? Yeah, posse, exactly. It's kind of like posse. Sumpwork posse is pretty close to Chilean Sumpworker. Yeah, it's like Chilean Sumpworker. Exactly, guys. So yeah, Thunder Fist is basically like Chilean Sumpworker, except probably a little bit more awkward. The fact that its first form at least has impact and a decent body is actually kind of nice. Whereas the funny thing about Chilean Sumpworker is, like, even though it's only 2 mana instead of 3, when you only draw one of it, a 1/2 elusive is kind of useless. Whereas this at least is like going to impact and not going to die right away. So it's already kind of better in terms of raw damage than the Chilean Sumpworker. So yeah, we basically have confirmed that we are getting recall synergy. Ari is going to be almost certainly recall synergy. Kennen, who knows what Kennen will do. It'll probably be stun synergy, but a lot of these cards are like little like rat people like Kennen. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe he'll have something to do with recall. I don't know exactly how good these cards are going to be. These are ones that are really, really hard to evaluate without being able to see how Ari and Kennen work. Ari is not Yordle. So we don't know which it's going to be, but we do know that these cards, these are all Bandle cards that we're getting today, and they're going to be paired with the Ionia champions, or one of them that we're going to be getting either tomorrow or later down in the reveal season, right? And that'll be, yeah, either Kennen or Ari. overall, I mean, I think Quicken is actually a pretty solid card. This is a card that will hit certain metas in a similar way to Culling Strike. You know, it'll definitely have additional synergy with any sort of deck that, you know, wants to recall. But Quicken is really solid. Like, this is a card that you can just run outside of synergy. It'll get a little bit better with synergy. For the most part, a lot of the other cards are going to depend on what we're able to, you know, see from the new cards that we haven't seen yet. But Tornado Warrior actually looks like it has a lot of potential. Like, if you run the math on Tornado Warrior, I think there's 13 different rollable keywords. It's going to be rolling the same keywords as Porobot, and that means it can't roll non-keywords like Lurk, right? It's not a random keyword. It can't roll like Lurk or Ephemeral or something like that. So there's, I think, 13 rollable keywords. And if you run the gamut of like how they are, it's a 2 mana 3/2 with, you know, Quick Attack, 2 mana 3/2 with Lifesteal, 2 mana 3/2 with Elusive. There's a lot of the random keywords that are just going to be good, right? And, you know, that's a good floor for value. If you recall it a few times, when you start combining multiple keywords together, especially if like one of them gets to be, you know, something like Spell Shield, or if you just have natural protection against that, this card can actually be really insane. I really like the idea of Tornado Warrior. This looks like a lot of fun. It's kind of like an Arsenal, except instead of playing like a controller game plan, you're basically just like comboing every turn to allow it to go off, right? And it gets +1 power every time too. Yeah, exactly. It'll always have 2 health, so you'll need some additional ways to protect it. It'll probably be pretty vulnerable to removal, but if we have good protection for this, you know, it actually could be adorable, and being able to recall it over and over again is really good protection. Like, if the opponent threatens it, you just recall it. It's very random because it's, you know, random keyword, but this card actually could end up being pretty scary. Like, combining keywords together starts having like really scaling effects. It's I know I was saying before this that like recall has a hard time working, but this card is definitely strong enough that it could allow for recall to make some moves. Like, I actually like this card quite a bit. And yeah, I don't even know what to think about Gust Monk. I don't know. I mean, wait, does Tornado Warrior not keep the stat buffs from other sources? Because it says I keep these stat buffs and keywords when I'm recalled. So it doesn't, it only keeps its own buffs. So yeah, I guess you lose the buff from something like Cloud Stance if you actually try to do that. Huh. Okay. Yeah, Gust Monk is pretty decent. Like, a 2/2/2 that just creates like a trick in hand is solid. You know, like, the opponent will be able to see it, but you'll have a +2 trick that you can use either at burst speed in combat, kind of like a rush. Like, the opponent will have to be blocking down in a certain way just because of this, which is really valuable. Or you can use it as a potential recall if you need to for some reason. The fact that it's recall round end is kind of bad. Like, it's kind of a straight up downside. Any sort of like recall that you want to apply on your own unit is not gonna want to be round end, pretty much, except for like very specific synergies. Like, even Tornado Warrior, though, you're recalling it in a situation that doesn't save it. But yeah, and Cloud Stance is main deckable too. Yeah, no, this is something you can main deck as a combat trick. Like, +2 and round end recall me for 1 mana is really interesting, right? It's not as good as like Shaped Stone, but if you have reasons to recall, you might actually just want to put this in your deck. And yeah, those are today's 6 cards that we're seeing. Overall, I'm actually impressed. I really like the idea of Tornado Warrior, and I'm looking forward to building around with this deck and seeing what Ari and Kennen have to do in terms of recall. All right, what do you guys think?